Hello everyone, welcome back to Captain Faki. This is Demosthenes, and today we are working on a bit of a resort style island. We're expanding today the city to the south. I know last episode I promised we would be working on a bit of an industrial area, and that was the plan, but before we did that, I did not realize how long it would take to build this and how much footage I would have and how little time I would have to edit. So basically, before we even start the episode really, and I explain what's going on camera, I had one day to edit this entire video. So if there's any funny cuts or anything like that, that's your little heads up right there. But otherwise, let's talk about what's going on. So right now, it's sort of continuing the idea that along the coastline of Miami, a lot of developers would like to see this as prime real estate. So just like in real Miami, I mean, I'm talking about this like this is a clone and copy. Along the coastline, there are tons of condo buildings, new and old, and this is a feature not only along beaches, as you might suspect, but it's also a feature seen just along the regular waterfront before the, I guess I don't know what to call it. I have to research this. The sandbar island that is Miami Beach, of course. So this will be something. This is like similar to what we'll have at that time. But yeah, so these are just regular residences. They function as such. And in real Miami, there's no river behind this island, so it's not really an island at all. It just is. The waterfront is where a lot of these taller buildings are, and towards, well, basically directly behind these areas, it's not very nice because it's not really nice real estate to live, I guess. Not close to the water and, you know, in an inner city environment, but I guess there's some gentrification going on if you go and look around on Google Maps. But otherwise, this is what I'm doing. Directly behind these buildings on the one side of the main avenue, there will be some not terribly small homes, but not exactly gigantic either. And I guess they're just like your regular beach homes that you would find really anywhere. The kind of development I have going on here, I guess, maybe wouldn't be seen. I guess from a distance it looks fine, but maybe when you get closer and it doesn't look like something that you would find really close to the downtown. But I think it turns out really well. In fact, I actually think this turns out really well in comparison to last episode, which I don't think was one of my strong highlights. This episode, I really think this goes really well. I detail every single one of these little development complexes, and I do not put beaches because I'm not exactly sure why it is, but there are no beaches before the sand wall islands in tropical regions. I'm not sure why that is, but it just is that way, and I figured a seawall makes more sense than just to have some vegetation, which was my other option, but I think this looks a lot better. So right now I'm terraforming a little bit, just so that way, as you can see with the new theme, the sand will pop out a lot more and the water will look a lot more clear and turquoise, which I think looks really great. I do have to wait a little bit after this to just make sure that the water doesn't totally, flood the entire city, which it kind of does. And then here you can see me just going over a lot of other areas with sand just to get the whole effect going, trying to get sand into those little areas in between and whatnot. So yeah, the only area that, in terms of buildings, that changes dramatically from what you can see here so far would be the development on the very far right. I could never, or in this case, from this perspective, the very far left. I could never decide what I wanted to do with that. And here we're just waiting for some water to drain out, so it's a perfect opportunity for me to talk. But I could never figure out what I wanted to put there because I made the land so large that I couldn't decide what needed to go there, which obviously became a gigantic issue. And yeah. So right here, I get rid of all that vegetation on the backside of the island. I extend basically the area of it, and even though I do make the land go inland a bit more, I still think that, I don't know if I'd mentioned this, but the rivers throughout the city do seem a little bit wide, just a little bit. And there's not too much I can do about that except maybe adding an extra block inland for some of these. And I don't think it looks awful. I think it really adds to the look of the city, especially with this island here. But maybe just in the future, I would consider maybe maybe not keeping this with this. So right here I did just copy and paste some buildings just to figure out what kind of assets I would want to use. I changed the directions of these roads leading into the island, and I kept this in because I wanted to show, I guess, the entire process really, because this main avenue really gets detailed towards the end of the episode. I don't show everything because I use a lot of duplicating and prop unlimiter and stuff, which, just saying, I hit the prop limit frequently now, and I have to go in and delete things, so I'm considering entirely omitting my construction sites. Not all of them, but for the most part, I kind of want to get rid of them. Unless an asset editor, I can create them and just plop them down as if they were buildings. Otherwise, they just take up way too many props. They look amazing, don't get me wrong, but really, we're not halfway done this city. Like, I mean, after this, in the next episode, like, we use a lot of props in both, but after next episode, we're just doing suburbs until I decide to start working on either the airport or the Miami Beach style area. And at that point, it becomes far too strenuous to keep these kinds of things in, because I've thought about it a lot, and I've been thinking to keep a save of just the mainland, but of the city when I start working on Miami Beach, where it has all the props. And then when I start working on Miami Beach, I destroy tons of props, or at least most of the construction sites, and maybe some of the ploppable asphalt covered parking lots and stuff, just because it is getting way too intense. I'm not even worried about frame rate. You guys can't even notice. Like, yeah, frame rate's one thing, but if I look away from the city, I'll never really have to worry about that. But if I can't place the props down at all, that's a really big issue. At Miami Beach is like, or whatever we'll call it, I guess Captivate Beach. I might even make it look like a whole new series on my channel. You'll never know. But it'll be like in starting a new city. I mean, it'll be built differently, but there'll be still tons of props. And especially in the suburbs, I don't know how many props it'll be. It'll be a lot of vegetation and water elements in this, but there'll still be tons of props and like details and things going around. And I mean, I was just far too much for me to just keep going on with a few, because really anytime you're watching me play from now on, unless I explicitly say I've destroyed tons of props, I'm playing within 100 props of the limit, and I wish there was a way to display that, and if there is, I would really love it if you guys could point that out to me, because as far as I can tell, there is no way to control the prop limit, which is very bothersome, or to at least see it, which is very bothersome, because I don't know how close I am and what I could destroy. And yeah, I mean, prop unlimiter is great, but it's not like tree unlimiter where I can just place the trees, I guess you could say. And I mean, tree unlimiter has its own issues, and I'm not using that because I'm nowhere near the tree limit whatsoever. But yeah, and then I tried to use the vanilla prop remover mod, and for whatever reason, it just messes with my game, and I can't place things down, I can't select things. It's basically, I enter a bugged state of the game, right, where it's a big issue for me, and just, it's not worth stress. I mean, of course, if those props take away from the prop limit, then I'll have to try and find a fix. But otherwise, there's no use. It's just far too much per se to just do that. So right here, what we're working on now is the parking lots that I decided to put in between the avenue and these developments. And I guess this would be like city-funded parking lots or something along those lines. Someone who bought just all of these strips and just decided to fill it in with parking lots, because I was realizing that the main projects didn't have a lot of room for parking, and I mean, that's obviously not a bad thing, but it's not realistic either. So I figured it would make sense that there was already some kind of existing parking, and yes, so this is probably what'll be the bulk of the episode, and I think it's just great. We detail here all of the resorts, and this just looks phenomenal, if you ask me. Each one has something not exactly different. Some are less detailed than others, but each one looks great. And I guess these aren't exactly resorts. They're more of like just condo complexes, I guess. The resorts would be in the Miami Beach style areas. I keep talking about that as if it's next episode, but It really isn't. I plan to have what's in the next episode in this episode, and I guess I'll tell you, it's that industrial sort of warehouse office kind of region of the city. There will be office parks, there will be not just office parks, there will be office parks, warehouses, mostly that. There will be one cargo zone for trucks, not trucks, trucks and trains to exchange goods. There will also be tons of distribution centers, and you might even get a sneak peek of some of this in next at the cinematics, but for the most part those won't be seen. And I won't lie, I do a few blocks of suburbs to the north of the city, because I've pre-recorded a lot of stuff, but mostly just things you've already seen, and nothing that would be detrimental to you guys, because it is stuff I've done so much already, or at least it's so repetitive that it is not even fun to watch anymore. I don't even like doing it, and if you guys want me to continue doing it, I can, but not only do I want to stop doing that and try new things out, which is why I have so much fun with next episode, but I also want to move on to a different style of suburbs, which is the more modern, either luxurious or just wealthier suburbs, because I'm getting, that's sort of where my skills lie at, I guess you could say, because, you know, I live in the suburbs, to be honest. I've seen them not just here where I live in the northern North America, but also in Florida. I've seen them, and I have a perfect idea of what they look like, not just by going on Google Maps, but the feel that they're supposed to have when you're actually there. And because of that, I would love to get started on it, because I'll touch more on this later, but I'm going to have some more inspiration very soon for these types of areas, and I would love to get started on that. And the timeline for this city, in terms of episodes, I guess is where you'd want to write down your papers, along with, I guess there would be surprises in between and such. But then the plan is next episode, which would have been this episode, would be with the industrial / office park. That might be even 2 episodes, followed by the filling out of commercial zones in between some of the suburbs, just finalizing some stuff like a kind of like a commercial, I don't know what you would call it, like where there's Walmart and shops and stuff, just that really gives off the suburban vibe. But I mean, I guess I just have to make it look grungier and sketchier. So yeah, something I'll touch on here. This was also filmed at the time before I realized there were, well, most of this episode, before I realized that there were actual, not port, well, I guess we'll call them ports, spots where the boats go. I didn't realize that there were actual, like, assets, and I think they're props. It might be buildings, not sure, but I'm fine with using props for them. So I didn't realize actually that there were such assets for the game until I watched, I think I said this last episode, until I watched another YouTuber use them. So I subscribed to them. I didn't get all of them because some of them were just unrealistic for the type of city this would be. But yeah, so I guess I'm continuing on my timeline thing. I plan to have, basically, the city is, I don't want to say width-wise, but the city is fairly well developed along the coast for what I'm planning to do right now. From now on, I'm thinking of just expanding to the north, a bit to the east, and a little bit to the west, and mostly to the east. So when you see some cinematics, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. Mostly this would be modern suburb type things, maybe some more industrial parks, but for the most part, that's what we're going to be moving on to in the future. So yeah, so I would say by episode 14 or 15, we will definitely be working on the suburbs, which I think will be definitely interesting. And then by episode, I would say 17 to 20, depending on how much I want to do in each episode for the suburbs, exactly, that is. Depending on how much I want to do in each episode, by the time that is done, I'll either do an airport, which I have the location ready to go. I'll just have to change around some interchanges, highway interchanges. Oh yes, next episode, you know, no, I won't spoil it, but there's something to do with highways. There will be an airport by episode 20, which could be any time from next month, next 2 months, and of course, there could always be a limitation that stops me from doing this, but it'll either be the airport or the start of Miami Beach. And my mind says to do the airport and then just do the Miami Beach style area and get that complete, and then that would be when I start, because then I could say Captiva Key is done, on to Captiva Beach, which I guess is a good name. You know, because you just take the same prefix and then add beach instead. So I think that'll be a really good addition. Of course, the airport will be huge, and yeah, so I'm just coming up with ideas in my head as well, not exactly for what's going on screen, which I should probably talk about as well. This is just another one of the resorts that I'm really proud of. Use a lot of tiles, but I do use prop and limiter to plop those down, so pretty happy with it. And I finally used, just in this build entirely, there are tons of assets that I've been meaning to use that I haven't gotten around to, which I'm so happy I've been able to, because there are content creators I've told I would use these assets in, and just they've been waiting on me, and I finally started to do it, and it's perfect. I'm just really happy I've gotten to make it work out. And yeah, so I guess as I was saying for the timeline, I don't know why I'm talking about it so much, but no problem. I'll be definitely building at some point an area such as this to the south of the area where we expanded at the end of the last episode. So I don't know if there's much context, but that'll be mostly to the west of downtown. So that is definitely great. It'll be essentially the same design as this, and that will be not next episode because there's something coming up, but definitely by episode 12, because I don't want the industrial area. I may not finish it, but I want the majority of the industrial area to be just one episode, because it's not too repetitive, but I feel like all of the work that gets done could be finished and shown off in one episode. So yeah, the city is sprawling out quite a lot, actually. I hope you guys, I like to showcase that, so I hope I'm doing a good job of that right now as the series goes on. Yeah, it's going along pretty great. I'm just trying to mess around with these props here, but yeah, if I ever show the entire map, which I may have done, may have not, but there is like a entrance to like a bay sort of thing to the west, just west of this spot of the city right here. I will not sprawl past that point. Obviously Miami is known to be, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a more linear city, like it doesn't expand. I guess if you looked at it from the perspective of Miami Beach is to the south and downtown Miami is to the north, the city doesn't expand very far north. But it does stretch very far east and west along the coastline. So I'm going to try and capture that as much as I can without expanding too far north, if that makes any sense. It may just end up happening anyway, but we'll have to see. So I guess it's time I could possibly talk about what is going on in the future that I've been sort of teasing this episode. And what that will be is I am actually going to I will not say exactly where, but a semi-tropical, how would you say, like a resort sort of thing. And I'm hoping that I will be able to get tons of inspiration from this location. It'll be extremely beneficial to the series, but because of this, I'm editing this video in one day. I was going to make this episode a lot longer. I mean, I guess if I included the industrial stuff, this would have been double the length. That would have been no fun. But nonetheless, this episode is kind of rushed, although I'm really proud of it. A lot more proud of the last episode, which I had tons of time for. But yeah, this all gets done fairly quick, and that might, I'm not sure, but there will definitely not be an episode next week. I know it's been harder and harder for me to do every week uploads, but there will definitely not be one next week. I will try as hard as I can to get a episode in the week after that, but judging by the fact that I managed to do this in one day, I would say that, yeah, I probably can. I can probably do that. So yeah, I'm going to leave you guys with some music for a bit until we get to the cinematics, and until then, hope you guys have fun. Alright guys, that will do it for episode 10 of Captive Vicky. I hope you guys enjoyed me working on this sort of resort luxury residential region. You can see some of those pure props I was talking about right there. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be here in a couple of weeks with some fresh content and some fresh inspiration. I hope you guys all have a good day.